So welcome back, I'm Sean, and today we have two very similar phones that we want to compare to see which option is better for you and what are the differences between the two models, so let's check it out.
It's just another doorway to open up and see what kind of lifeline will be waiting there for me. I need to bury all these fears and let them fade away. I'm not scared, I'm prepared to find myself again. I wanna fly over mountains, I wanna reach the end. I'll rise up.
And if you haven't checked out the independent review of both of this phone, I will link them down in the description below so you can go have a look at a more in-depth review of these two phones. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing and ring the notification bell so you won't miss any future tech reviews. If you're interested in buying them, do check out my links in the description below. So in terms of design, these two phones are almost identical. You get a nice modern back cover with the large 3 camera lenses and flash. So one thing you'll notice is that the lens on the Redmi right over here is actually smaller than the Poco M6 Pro. So some similarities here is that you're also going to get a Type-C charging port that supports fast charging on both of these, and we'll talk about the differences about them shortly. But both of these get a SIM tray with expandable storage up to 1TB, and you're also going to get a dual top and bottom speakers with a 3.5mm headphone jacks. Both of this phone also supports high-res audio. So again, both of these phones does ship with their own silicone case. So this is the Redmi one over here and this is the Poco one. You can see that the difference is a little bit different there. And both of these phones also comes applied with screen protector out of the box. So some of the things that you want to consider between this phone is the color, the design of the backsplash, as well as the performance in terms of RAM and storage that you want to get. So another area where there is similarity is the display. So both of these phones runs the same 6.67-inch Full HD Plus AMOLED display with a resolution of 2400 by 1800. Both of these phones also support DCI-P3 color gamut, but where they differ is the screen material, since the Poco runs the newer Corning Gorilla Glass 5, where the Redmi runs the Corning Gorilla Glass 3. This is mainly because Redmi cannot have the same screen as the Xiaomi 13 series, so they had to settle for something older. In terms of battery life, both of these phones comes with a 5000 mAh battery, and you can check the individual videos for the full battery life test. But just in summary, the Poco actually lasts 2.5 hours less compared to the Redmi counterpart. And also Poco comes with a 67-watt wired fast charging, and the Redmi only comes with a maximum fast charging of half the speed at 33 watts. So there is quite a big difference in terms of charging speed. But the good news here is that both the Poco and Redmi both come with their respective fast charging bricks right in the box itself. So to the juicy part about this comparison, which is the chipset, because both of these phones comes with a 6nm octa-core processor, not the smallest or the most efficient, but their internals are very different. So the Poco comes supplied with a mid-range MediaTek Helio G99 Ultra, which is a pretty decent processor with a clock speed of 2.2 GHz. And the Redmi comes with an entry-level Qualcomm Snapdragon 685 processor with a slightly higher clock speed of 2.8 GHz. In my real-life testing, you can feel the Redmi feels a little less fluid and a little sluggish at times, and the response speed of the Redmi is also not as immediate as the Poco. But this also boils down to the specs that you get with this phone, because at both of their top spec configuration, the Poco comes with a respectable 12GB of RAM with half a terabyte of storage, whereas the Redmi only comes with 8GB of RAM with 256GB of storage. So both of them run the LPDDR4X RAM, which has their advantage and disadvantages as compared to the LPDDR5 RAM architecture, but in short, it may not be as power efficient as the new RAM architecture, and you definitely need a larger RAM pool if you want to run RAM heavy processors. So that is where Poco actually got it right and gives you a 12GB RAM in this case. So when comparing real-world performance, you can see the MediaTek chipset is superior in the sense that it supports higher resolution processing. For example, in the YouTube app, you get to bump the resolution up to 1440p on the Poco, whereas the Redmi only gives you a maximum of 1080p. And for the PUBG test, the Poco trumps the Redmi in smoothness when running on the HD graphics settings, and you can immediately feel when jumping onto the Redmi that it suddenly feels a lot more sluggish and runs at a slower frame rate. Both still works well and plays well with no hangs or lags, but the experience in smoothness you get is very different. Also, if you look online for benchmarking scores of both of this chipset, the Snapdragon 685 loses out onto the MediaTek chipset in almost all categories, not by much, but it's still a less efficient chipset overall. So the good news here is that both of these phones comes with IP54 dust and water resisting rating, so you can accidentally splash water onto them and they'll be fine, as long as you don't dunk it in water or use it when it's raining heavily and getting water into your ports. So in terms of camera performance, you can check out the in-depth review of these phones for more detailed examples, but the main difference between the phones is that the Poco supports only a maximum of 64 megapixel, whereas the Redmi comes with a 108 megapixel shot. But to be honest, in real life, we're really not printing out billboard-sized photos and no one really pixel peeps, so on a practical day-to-day basis, they both have pretty good cameras. So however, when you talk about the zoom feature, the digital crop on the Redmi definitely performs better with the higher resolution sensor. So the ultra-wide lens as well as the macro lens performance are pretty much similar, as well as the front 16 megapixel camera. So one sad thing about both of these phones is that they only shoot a maximum video resolution of 1080p, and another difference here is that the Poco at least does 60 frames per second and have OIS, which is optical image stabilization for the rear camera. So, but the Redmi only shoots up to 30 frames per second on both the front and rear camera. So as I've mentioned, the Poco does come with optical stabilization, so you do see a slight difference in your video, but not by much. So all in all, I think these two phones are very identical phones with almost similar spec, and on paper I would go with the Poco M6 Pro. However, to be honest, on a real world day-to-day use, I don't notice the difference in performance, and for most people it won't matter as long as the phone serves its purpose, especially at this price point. Perhaps you might want to buy into the Xiaomi branding, then the Note 13 is a good option for you to consider, else I think the Poco still has the edge over the Redmi. So that is it for this comparison review, and if you find this video helpful, smash the thumbs up button, share this video everywhere, and if you haven't yet subscribed, do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.